Welcome back, friends. I've got a crowd favorite. It's Paul Hall is back with us, and today we are going to get into his origin stories, his some Paul lore. I know that we haven't really delved deep into his backstory, but today we're going to do that. And we are also going to be talking about where he's going, which is going to become a student to be painting icons.
Amen.
So you were just telling me a couple things about your journey from, before Orthodoxy and after, and where you're going to do this great work for the church. And it was, a roller coaster. I was like, there's betrayal, there's ups, there's downs, there's like mysticism, psychedelics, like all of these things in the story. So let's just hop right in. Like, where do I even begin?
I could start us off. I got to
Okay, go
start it.
ahead. Yeah, in the
All
beginning.
right. Lord have mercy. I got to take a breath. Okay. So good to be back. Thank you. Hello, everybody. But okay, so we're just gonna jump right into it. Story of Paul begins more or less. Yeah, like we'll do this so we don't lose the plot entirely, so people get a little bit. More or less, I had a powerful dream in 2016, and I started to paint. And we'll just start us right off with our OG PowerPoint. This was the painting. I saw this in a dream. I
Okay.
had
Bubbles.
a
The bubbles.
bunch of bubbles. Hey,
Yeah.
maybe a bunch of fractured personalities, maybe.
Okay.
Look, if you want to look at it, see, we got to always look at it both
It
ways, right?
it
Just because
reminds me of frogs' eggs or
those are your
eyes.
main,
Or like
yeah, maybe a bunch of eye
cells, maybe, what's going on.
bubbles.
So
Yeah.
explain this painting.
Well, there's much we could explain, but let's say years ago. No, I don't want to get on a rabbit hole too early. We'll just pin this here. So we had a dream.
Okay.
I had a dream, and it kind of kicked off a bunch of painting. And then that just kind of was my life, just like painting. And I'd go to work 9 to 5 and then come home and paint every night. And at the beginning, it was all about doing like a painting in a night. And we'll break that down because that had a lot to do with kind of my psycho spiritual technomancy stuff that I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, you know. And then eventually,
So
like
wait, let's paint a picture. Were you like a
we'll get
student
started. Go
and
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
were you a student and were you doing like
Yeah. Okay.
studying young and doing psychedelics and were you
Yeah. Let me do it.
Terrence McKenna man?
I already got derailed. Okay. So
Okay.
really quick one. You had a dream, started painting,
Uh-huh.
started getting deeper into that stuff, eventually had a, NDE, OBE, outer body
Okay.
experience thing. Really just was a hardcore pivot in everything.
Okay.
Then went further down the rabbit hole and went so far, I ended up becoming a Christian. So that's more or less
Okay, that
short
tracks
story.
actually. Yeah. Isn't
Yeah.
there a joke about like what do you get after rehab is like you become born again? Like
Well, and that was the part jumping now ahead. It's the very end. It was like, dude, I know what this part of the story is. Like, I'm gonna become a total normie, loser, weirdo. And it's like, you don't go anywhere after Jesus. Like, what do people
mm,
become after they've hit rock bottom
hmm
of like the sex, drugs, rock and roll life?
hmm
Jesus. Or it's like they go further into weird Zen, something with secular. So, anyways, going back. So I graduated college in 2013,
Okay.
classical guitar degree. Realized very quickly you can't even get like a dishwashing job just
Is this on
because
the West Coast?
yeah, I was in Humboldt County. So I'm originally from
Okay.
Los Angeles, more or less,
Uh,
and Santa Clarita, where Magic Mountain is.
yeah.
Yeah. So I lived, born and raised there in the suburbs, classic suburb boy. And then wanted to always go to the redwoods. And then also, admittedly, look, we're getting candid here. I knew I could get that POT up in Humboldt County because I was really big into that cannabis lifestyle.
hmm
And so it was a small thing, but in all honesty, it's like you're just like 18 years old and you're like, oh, I want to go to school and study music. And I mean, like, I don't want to move to like, the middle of nowhere. And anyways, so I moved to Humboldt in 2009, did classical guitar, graduated summa cum laude, 2013, looking for a job. Can't even get a dishwashing job. I ended up working at a brewery, and this is the time of my life where now, basically from there until now, I've always been working like blue collar jobs.
Hmm.
Basically mostly just working in a brewery for like 4.5 years. And then I moved over literally right next door to hold your hats, folks, cannabis brewery, more or less, like a legal
Okay.
weed.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's that jumping ahead, it's been really tough since being a Christian because it was like so conflicting, especially when I'm like, oh yeah, like working in the middle of Babylon, so
Hmm.
but we'll
That
get there.
it's funny because that totally fits you. Like one of the fun things that when you come on, the chat room tries to like guess things about you. Like he looks like he chops wood or so, or something like that. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, he
there's a
looks like
Paul
he
looks
could
like
work at a
me.
dispensary in the
Yeah.
past.
Well, it wasn't a dispensary. It was more
Like,
like factory style, like actually
oh, okay, yeah.
all the weed and pressing it in the big oil presses and like
Oh man.
little gels and capsules and chocolates. Like it was more like a factory, Willy Wonka factory slash Ace Hardware.
Okay, the Willy Weed Wonka Willy fact. Will
Yeah, and this will tie into it. This will all tie
somebody
into
think
it.
of a good portmanteau for that?
Yeah, we'll have it in the chat. We'll get it in the
Okay.
chat.
Yeah.
So
Weedy
okay, so
Wonka. There it is.
what was it? Weedy
Weedy
Wonka.
Wonka. Oh.
Nice, nice, nice. Not anymore, folks.
Okay.
I'll take the jokes.
No.
I'll take the
Okay,
jokes, but I'm
so
a
what
good
we're doing
sport.
tonight is we're interweaving the theology of icons and Paul's future into his past and where he's been and how he got there and where he's going. And we're going to give you a chance to actually help him get there because his journey starts in a couple months, weeks,
Weeks.
months.
I'm start
What
at
do
the
you
end of
answer?
August.
Okay.
Econ. Yeah,
So
and
you
just
work,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say in all sincerity, I'm really am asking for people's help, and hopefully when we get deeper in the conversation, I'll be able to be a little more open and speaking more from the heart. But it's
So
really tough.
all the super chats that come in on the show, obviously we're going to donate them to Paul and whatever you want to put in the comments, and you were gonna have a link to what do you have a
I
like
have Ko-Fi page.
okay. So
Yeah.
I'll
So
put that link as well. And so continue your working at
yeah.
Weed
Okay. No,
Factory.
no. We're not there yet. We're not there
Oh,
yet. So
oh, okay.
we graduated. I'm just we're laying down a lot of we're multi-dimensional here out of this world. So we
Well,
got
we're
to
like
build it.
icons out of space and time.
That's right. So it's like let's say 2013, 14, 15, 16, kind of uneventful. I meet my girlfriend who's borderline personality disorder. I know that's like general and it's not really fair to characterize, but for our purposes, you know what that means. It was like a tumultuous relationship.
Yeah.
And who says I was any better in it too, honestly? Like I grew up, my parents split up when I was like 17. I have a younger brother, grew up in the suburbs, but so I never grew up really in a broken home, but it was always very tough. And I think honestly, I retreated into the imagination early on as a child for like protection, you know?
Hmm.
Anyways, so yeah, 2016, this is where we like when we start a movie, we do like start on an action beat.
Uh-huh.
Get ready, folks. We're just getting into it. Yeah, one night I walked in on my girlfriend with another guy.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, that was very tough for like probably, a good 2 years of like we were only together for like a year and it took like so much healing coming out of all of that. But so I walked in on her
At
and
your
naturally
own
that was
house?
yeah.
Oh
No,
no.
no, this gets funnier. This gets crazier. Listen to this. This is where this is man, I have so much sympathy for dudes that do bad stuff, like at least stupid, sad romantic things. So like that all happened. Of course, we like had a parting of ways for a while, and then it was like also at the point where, um, man, I feel like I don't remember exactly. I'm losing the time order. At some point, basically, yeah. This is what happened. Like we, excuse me, sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I know it doesn't seem as fast as it does in my head, but my parents had an affair. So it was one of those things that hit me on that same level. I was like, well, rather than do what happened in my family and like break up, I'm going to be the hero and stay with her. And we're going to work through this.
Oh man. Just for a
Yeah.
girlfriend?
Dude, I was young. I don't
Right.
know. Yeah. It was just like, but that's how crazy. That's why I really, I don't know, man. I feel for people, dude. Yeah. It didn't work out for like more than 6 months because basically she wanted a girlfriend at that point too, in addition to me. I'm just like, no, we're done here. Like this is,
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
too far.
But it's so I sorry, I spaced out because at some point we lived together. And
Right.
I didn't walk in on her and him at my house, but I don't remember if we had already broken up and got back together, if this was before we even moved in, and I was like such a CUCK that I was like just going for it, you know?
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so that really kicked off this kind of like, all right, I gotta take my life more seriously. Like I'm not getting involved in anything with anyone until I quote unquote figure it out, you know, and
Mhm.
Lord knows when will that ever be. So, anyways, I started dreaming more. And I had this dream one night, like I showed in the painting, that I was in Pablo Picasso's art studio. And he was like putting this painting, I'll show it again, like in
Mhm.
a kind of black body bag. That's what I'm calling it. Like maybe like an art bag, a canvas bag. But it really felt like in hindsight, when I started doing my Jungian work, this is right where we get into this idea that like maybe that was my creative potential almost being put away. So I was super depressed and sad, you know, after being betrayed. And so anyways, I really woke up and I was like inspired to paint. And I like hated abstract art my whole life, honest to God. And I was kind of this explosion of painting and dreaming. And I started getting like freaked out because it just was really strange. Like, do you dream a lot or have you ever had
Yeah.
life? Did you do dream stuff ever or like
Yeah. Like I had dream books for sure in my 20s. Like that's one of those introductory little like Barnes and Noble ways into witchcraft, right? Like,
right?
you know.
Yeah, it's like I never really honestly liked those dream books so much because all it's like, what do you mean a waterfall is suddenly like I have the runs? It's like what does this
Well,
mean? Or
I mean, I think it does mean something because I have repetitive dreams. Definitely one is like my teeth are falling out. So that's
mm,
gotta mean something. Like why why
they
do
were
I
just talking
wake up
about.
relieved every day that my teeth are like right where they are? Like
Yeah, so I started dreaming a lot, and I remember when I was with my ex-girlfriend who betrayed me, she had this book at her house by this guy named Jung, you know, and I was like, oh, what is this? I flip it open, it's on dreams, and there's all these like pictures of Greek statues and big words, and I was like, wow, this is actually like kind of serious, you know. And although I'm always kind of been like an artsy dude, like I honestly I'm not to like be too cross referential here, but like I'm not like a logical smart guy like your husband. Like I love and appreciate logic, but it's just not I don't know how to like I roll with like poetic myth caveman logic, like you
yeah,
know, like I'm like one of those guys, like if science didn't tell me, I'd probably think the earth was flat just because the sun always comes up from the bottom side, you know.
right.
so so anyways though, I appreciate rigor and that those people that could do that for me so that I can understand through them, you know. So long story short, I started really getting into Jung. I was like, man, this guy's like finally a sober voice, you know. And I wasn't really a well-read person. Like I was just a musician. Like all I liked was like music and comic books and art. Like I didn't really care to learn deeper things, you know, just surface level philosophy classes. I was really into Zen though. I'd practiced Zen. I've been like a Zen guy from like probably like 18 to 29 or 30 or something.
Hmm.
So, anyways, we're just like in this period now of like dreaming and painting. So I'll do just a few flashes, but like at this point, this is when I realized I started to develop my spiritual technology. I would like go into this woodshed in the back. This is like kind of like these geographic strata. So this is all like really fast brushstrokes, you could tell.
Hmm.
Um, I'd go in this little woodshed and I'd just paint, you know, and I would like drink wine and smoke some weed and I'd like put on music and headphones on and I'd listen to these albums because I was like so depressed that I was like inspired by when I was younger.
It's very
And I'd like
Pollock-like, except a little more ordered, I think.
yeah, it's like circuitry or something, you know,
Yeah,
maybe.
like if Jackson Pollock painted a motherboard or something.
Pollock's motherboard.
Yeah.
Uh mother's Pollock board. Um And then here's the first one where we start getting into a little bit of symbolism. This one's kind of like there's this egg down here, kind of like this magic egg, and it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
you do your associating, you're like, oh, like Lord of the Rings, I like rings, so here's a circle, you know. And then you
Uh-huh.
start learning all this stuff about spheres and circles and occult stuff. But you know, it's just this
What are those
honest.
little red dots on the
Oh,
corners?
sorry, these are prices. Sorry,
Oh, oh,
I'm
okay.
selling all my art. So this is the red tier.
Oh, okay. So is that for sale? Like, if people want to buy, how do they contact you?
Yeah, no, that's kind of the thing. I mean, honestly, like if by the time this video comes out and if I'm still holding on to stuff, I'd be willing to contact people. But
Uh-huh.
this is more like I'm selling my art as if I found some dead guy's stuff in an attic and I'm just like trying to get rid of it while I get on the way. Because I've been sitting on this stuff for like 5, 6 years. I've never been an artist who's wanted to like be an
How much
artist.
is the Pollock motherboard?
For you, Jamie, it would be free. Free, but for anyone else, I mean, it depends. Like in Humboldt, where I live, I couldn't sell a painting for more than $300, and most people will only buy like paintings for 20 to 60 bucks. So it's tough. Like, I've been willing. That's been really humbling about these is parting with these pieces that I spent so much time on,
Yeah.
thinking like maybe they'll be worth $10,000. And it's like no, they're worth five.
Okay.
So anyway, and yeah. So we start going into this hermetic practice. This is when the hermeticism and
Uh-huh.
alchemy stuff. And now I'm reading deeper into Jung and kind of like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm on my shadow journey work. So like basically 2017, I'm like all about that shadow work. And I'm like trying to like, and honestly, to this day, it's good stuff, not in the Jungian way, but the idea of looking at the stuff you judge in other people and being like, those are my own sins that I'm clearly don't see in myself because I'm judging the, shape and a little bit of flake in the other person's eye.
Mm-hmm.
So more or less, I'm just in like crazy mode. I'm in therapy now since like the same time this is all starting. I was like going to a therapist and I was just feeling like impatient. I wanted more, and I remembered when I was young, those things called mushrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Mushrooms. Yeah. Oh, and I'm reading a little bit of Joseph Campbell and Jung, and I know about mythology. Go ahead. Where are you
What
gonna say?
about Terrence McKenna yet?
Not yet. Not
Oh, okay.
yet. This is the crazy part is like, yes, I had heard a little of him, but honest to God, like I had not really jumped into Terrence till after my break, which made it all the more dangerous because I felt like, oh, he and I, dude, we're on like the same level. And Jung has to be the right guy because he's talking about all this collective archetypes and stuff. And Terrence is like, since his and mine were the same, like maybe these things are actually real.
You know what I find amusing is the psychedelic bro to orthodox bro pipeline, and a lot of that goes through icons because it is trippy and we do need things to reflect on. Like we,
I have a trippy one. I'll jump ahead right
yeah.
now. This one's a
Uh-huh.
weird one. I honest to
Okay.
God I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I feel about this icon, but it's basically it says the one who's offered and is offers or offers and is offered.
Yeah.
So it's the Eucharist, right?
Yeah.
Super trippy.
Yeah. It's amazing. So it's Christ and he
Yeah.
offers his own self, and then
Is
the,
it focused? And then
yeah,
there's some feels about it.
and the angels. And what were you gonna say?
Oh, just that's it. But it's such a strange icon.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure my phone's still charging. We'll find out. Anyways, so all right, let's get on track. Let's get on track. Now I do my big mushroom break. And
Okay.
this was a thing where it's like I had, heard about the cave of Asclepius and all this stuff. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
maybe I will lay on my bed and like take off all my clothes and blindfold myself and put in earplugs and just eat like, I don't know, a half an ounce of mushrooms and just see what happens. And it was like, I mean, we could do a whole like, 10 minutes on that. But to the point is like, it was really out of this world. And it was one of those things that's like I heard, yeah, I should just do the quick story because it's so crazy. Like I was like starting late on my bed, I was like, what am I doing? Like this is nuts. I'm insane. I'm going out of my mind. And then I was like, no, this is what you wanted. This was your wish, like commit to it. And I heard this voice. It was like at first very gentle. It's like, it's okay. You can't take any of that stuff with you here. Just let it go and come. And you can't take that with you. You can't take that here. And it's like really kind. It started getting like more impatient. It's like, and it's basically like you can't take any of this stuff with you. And it was like very coercive in the sense that I kind of knew that I was going someplace that when we die, we can't bring any of this with us. Like now as a Christian, I believe we keep our soul, of course, but all these material things, anxiety even and fear and depression, like all those things we don't take with us. And it was just like basically this threshold crossing where it's like you in or you out, son. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm in. And I saw like all these like faces of people I like ever met my whole life, like blasting by me and like ripping up. And I was like being ripped up into like DNA fractal confetti shreds. And it
All
was
this
like,
from mushrooms?
dude,
Man, you
yeah,
you've taken a lot.
yeah, it was apparently a lot. Like not advised to anyone, folks. Like,
Okay.
and so more or less, like I enter into like, the other side of time, like, and I'm like astral traveling, and I go through like all these portals, and it's like, it's like Dr. Strangelove on the bomb. It's like, yeah, it's just like
Hmm.
total. This is why I know I got to do one footnote. I'm sorry. This is why I know it's not Christian. It's so ecstatic, and like the voices were so like coercive, and it's like it wasn't. It's either I'm like the newest great mystical saint who ever existed, or it's likely that a lot of this was deception
Mm.
and playing on my
Oh,
feelings.
yeah,
And
I've
yeah,
had those thoughts on mushrooms too. I mean, like there was one summer
yeah,
like baptizing each other in the kiddie pool and stuff like that. Like, like wacky.
okay. So you get
Nice.
it. Yeah. Okay. So, and then basically this dude, I mean, literally, I mean, we're this far already. At one point, I thought I was like the PENIS bumblebee, where I was like this fractal mystical bumblebee, like going around pollinating all this like death, and I knew that you had to like give life to death in order to come back. And it's one of those things like, okay, cool, bro, cool symbolism. But that was the kind of stuff that led me to be like, oh, the resurrection, all this stuff makes perfect sense. Like,
Okay.
because I experienced these sort of typological foreshadows. Like my Orthodox journey is very much a lot of my stuff I really believe it's either like I felt like it's very pre-incarnational, like
Hmm.
all these things that I was doing was kind of on the right track. I was just missing, it was like missing the letter A and the letter Z, like pun intended, the alpha and the omega, and having every other letter of the alphabet, but always missing something until that Christ element.
Yeah. Well,
Or,
which is funny
okay,
because mushrooms, but and they say they conflate these two things, like mushroom is Christ and stuff, but it's funny when you take it, you
I
do
got
think about these mystical, like Christ-like thoughts. I'm
yeah.
not recommending anybody do mushrooms to get to Christ, but it's funny that that's where it leads you because they're very happy
Just
experience.
the mushroom guy.
That Oh, did you paint that?
Yeah. So we're going down
Oh,
more.
cool. Okay.
So here's like, so this is like the 2D fractal beehive combs, and here's the bee. Oh wait, no wait. There's the bee I was telling you
Yeah.
about. And
Okay.
then it's kind of obviously the phallic shape, also a mushroom. But
Right.
we'll go further, and this is sort of like the voices of the
Oh,
souls,
look at those
life
little
being.
eyes. I
Yeah,
love.
well, see, this comes from Ethiopian
Yeah.
icon art, and eventually this was painted in 2017, and this was still 5 years before I became a Christian. So it's
What's
like,
that little kitty cat?
oh, well, he's obviously my soul animal. We'll explain all that too.
Oh,
So the well, yeah, it's kind of hard. Maybe if even if I have the
hey,
will,
someone's
I'll make
gonna
a
want
picture of
that.
this.
I bet.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk. We'll work this out.
Okay.
We'll work this out. So I was so gone, but my cat was laying at my feet the whole time and made me slightly uncomfortable. And honestly, I think it was his presence that kept me tethered. Like God sent me an animal to like keep me to the ground.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I would have been so out of this world that like I don't know what kind of person I would have become. So basically, at some point, I'm going through all these portal journeys, and I'm like feel that I'm have conquered everything. And this is where I make my honestly my Luciferic turn. I didn't know it at the time, but like this is if we were writing our story in the writer's room, this is
Hmm.
where the music foreshadows epic downfall stuff later on. This
Okay.
is like a bum, 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 bum. Like that's it. That's all you hear. But
Uh-huh.
I was like, wow, this is crazy. There's no limitations to any of this. 2 weeks earlier, my grandmother had died. And so I was like, Grandma, are you here? And I like heard this voice that like I was certain it was like not only my grandmother, but like the mother, of all like that's where I started understanding feminine goddess stuff way down the road. But at the end of this day, it's either like, yeah, it was her and I'm a saint and da da da, or it's like it was a demon disguising itself. And I'm far more willing to take that side because when I look at the fruit of my life of being a psychonautic, it just led to me becoming a Christian.
Hmm.
Like if it was truly holy and good and amazing, like I would be already be Orthodox. Like I would be practicing that life. God would have been granting me these visions, but I just was like foolishly devising my imaginations. And so it's like I'm way more willing to accept the idea that the church is saying, no, that stuff like stay away because it made me so prideful. And I thought like, oh, I talked to the dead and I've been to the other side. And
Yeah. There
yeah, mind boggling.
There was a joke on Twitter. Well, someone was saying that the new age, there's a lot of narcissistic people in, this psychedelic new age movement. And I'm like, yeah, they all have the attitude like, I finally killed my ego and now I'm better than everyone else.
Yeah,
Right? That's the
exactly.
attitude.
Yeah, and that was me. I didn't, but I don't want to be too like that. It honestly was humbling too, because I really knew that like I could die at any moment.
Hmm.
Like it was very real that this life you have to love, and like you have to not be afraid to take chances, and you have to be willing to get beat up and stand back up. It was very God, it was my count at the time. I'd say I met God. I don't know what to call it these days, honestly. Like, I really don't. But it was some experience of like eternity.
Hmm.
So basically, it's like more or less over. I have this powerful, like, climax, like, really emotional moment talking to my grandmother, air quotes, and then I hear this voice. It's like, go forth and heal with sound. Go forth and heal with sound. And it was like very triumphant. And I was like on this like golden lotus flower of trumpets, like going up into my body, but also coming down into my body.
Uh-huh.
Like a weird vortex of dimensionality. And then I like was like I'm going up this like golden elevator, like the epic ending to my shaman quest, and then like it stopped, like breaks down like 3 feet from the top. And I'm like, oh no, I can't get out of the portal zone. And I was like, how do I get out? And they're like, you got all this stuff, you went to the other side of blah 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 of time, you experienced eternity, the land of the dead, and you want like get your own way out of here. And I just like woke up like Alice in Wonderland style. I was just like woke up in my bed and it was like I look at the clock, it's like 2 hours later. I'm like, what?
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
And that was it. And that would just like set me off and running in this direction of just like, holy crap, everybody needs to eat mushrooms. Like, how has nobody known about this? This will save the world. Like, you know, total.
Was that the
So,
first time you done those?
no, that was the
Oh,
thing. I did them a lot in high school, like
yeah.
countless times in high school, but I never, ever had anything like that. And
So
that
you
was the
you
crazy
took
thing.
what they call a heroic dose and you went rode the dragon to the other side or rode
Yeah,
the snake.
other side of time. And then, so you could say like, at that point, basically the short story is now I thought I wanted to be a writer.
Uh-huh.
I've never been a writer my whole life. I've always been an artist or a musician. Suddenly I think, no, I'm going to be a writer. And so then I spent the next few years like obsessed with like trying to write a comic book. And I thought I was like this like psychedelic detective and I was going to write like this something between like a manual of how to live and a fiction story and like kind of on this like the detectives like trying to find where God, like how God died, and like he's on the case to like find God and
Uh-huh.
spirit animal stuff and alternate dimensions. And basically I just because I'm kind of getting bored of this part of the story and I want to eventually get to icons. I was just the art imitates art, imitates life cycle was like happening. It was like I would just be walking around town and suddenly having like, oh, now I'm like tripping again. It's like I had all these like I opened the pipeline and I was experimenting a lot with like microdosing LSD and just like always going to work, always having rent paid, like nothing was abnormal. But I was like living this like secret Batman life of psychedelia. And this is the funny part. I want to show how crazy this is too. In my whole dream stuff and doing the dream work, because we'll get into that. This is obscene, but these are all my dream journals. Look at, see,
Oh, wow.
this. Yeah, it's like I was dreaming like 3, 4 dreams a night, And go ahead,
That's dedicated.
dude. That's the thing. Is like, in all honesty, is like I didn't have anything to go with but this experience I had of something real,
Hmm.
and I was just like committed to. The thing with Jung for me was like I admit now is very blinders on, only as choosing one person, and is very guru-y and cultic that I would never admit at the time. But he just felt real. Like I was still under the idea that you could be not really be religious, but have experiences of spiritual stuff. And so a guy like Jung is, he looks at everything really soberly and stuff, but he treats the spiritual with, you know, respect. And so I was always just about that. And I felt like of all the psychologists who existed, he was the most like mystical.
Hmm.
I was just on my whole Jungian journey and
He was the Jordan Peterson of the
of
past.
the yeah of the greatest generation. Well, I don't know what generation. He was born like around the 1900s,
Yeah.
but So anyways, like, yeah, I guess alongside all this was my Jungian kind of individuation work. And then the whole Jungian stuff is like the journey you move through, like so esoteric. You move through like the levels, through like the shadow, and then
Hmm.
the anima, which is like the feminine, and then you get to the self. So the
Hmm.
self is usually represented. Here's this whole stuff how the self is represented by spheres or circles or Christs or Buddhas or basically anything that's like, yo, dude, this is spiritually the wholeness thing. Jung calls that the self. So I started getting up all about like how do I find the self and how do I make wholeness in my life and how do I connect and just all that kind of stuff. And so I'm just saying is Jung was like the driving sort of conceptual theoretical framework I had this whole while, but I was also experimenting a lot with psychedelics and finding that my experimentation was not corroborating with Jung. Like I found that Jung was wrong about a lot of stuff, but I almost didn't want to admit it. So I was like, well, he just didn't know, and maybe I'll be the next great Jungian who will like write all the stuff that Jung never talked about.
Hmm.
And but that was the interesting thing is like, 'cause I found when I was interested in Terence McKenna, it's almost like he was like the jester trying to like take the throne from Jung in my life. And I was like conflicted between these more chaotic and sort of more suits on, masks on, eyes wide shut looking occult weird stuff, like dancing in between the two. Like, do I want to really be a normal guy in the world and hide all this stuff like Jung, or do I want to be crazy out there, you know?
Yeah, like Alan
And
Moore. Thing.
yeah, like, yeah, and that's the thing. I was really into that in the Invisibles and Grant Morrison, and I thought like I got it. It's funny, all this stuff I want to talk about, I'm not finding is interesting. No, I am this, but other stuff I'm thinking about in the back of my mind. Like the whole media ecology stuff and how I've talked a lot about technology and all that stuff. That really hit the light too, because when I was doing mushrooms, it was so supernatural. When I came back and started reading about McLuhan and electricity and the way he talks about it so mythically, I was like, dude, electricity is like super, super low grade psychedelics.
Hmm.
Like, look, you and I are like communicating like disembodied voices, like telepathy on some level.
Okay.
Right. And see, once you do, I mean, right, in the sense like once you have crazy mushroom ideas going, you think, yeah, yeah, that is what phones are. Like, yeah, we are in some weird world. Like, yeah, everything is a mythic, poetic dream that's like breathing cosmic mythology all around me. And we're just like the modern electric tribesmen who are calling each other through our conches, and all that kind of stuff that's very real, but it's still very, let's say, pre-Christian in terms of its, sensibilities.
Hmm.
So to get short to all this, I started getting tired of all this. I got bored of psychedelics. I had this really, really dark trip. I was like inside an H.R. Giger painting is what it felt like for like
Ooh.
6. Yeah, it was like one of those things. It's like,
No,
well,
don't be in there.
dude, yeah, the good, bad vibes only in there.
One
It was
time,
like, yeah, go ahead, please.
uh, a bunch of us were eating mushrooms at the house, and this is a long time ago. I don't do psychedelics anymore. But
Nobody here does.
what?
That nobody here does.
Okay. Um, back when we were young, so we all took mushrooms, and I put on Phantom of the Opera CD, and I'm like, "Isn't this amazing music?" And they were all like, "I hate it," and they're scared, and then they're like, "The Phantom." I kind of set the mood for like everyone to have like a spooky time. Sorry, I thought it's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so like basically I was like I had a super dark trip and I never did mushrooms again. And that was only like in April of 2018. So it like was very quickly. I went from November 2017, April 2018, done with psychedelics. I thought I wanted to off and on, but it was just kind of like I microdosed some LSD, a little bit of mushrooms, but I was more or less like I liked mushrooms, but I couldn't tell people to go do them because it was really scary. It was like at this point, I don't know if it literally happened, but in the dark trip experience, it was like on a double full moon in Scorpio, all this stuff. You're like, oh, that's cool, like I'm into
Mhm.
that. Like, that's great. And yeah, like I said, being in an H.R. Giger painting, and I felt like I was deaf. I felt like
Ooh,
I penetrated so deeply into like the substrate of the cosmic DNA that I penetrated beyond the human level of sound.
okay.
Now, to tie in a little Christian idea, you can't penetrate beyond a human level because you're a human. Like,
Right.
that's all the stupid mystical stuff that's like, when you think about it for 2 seconds, it's like, look, you can't really do that. You're stuck at the human level. Like, I'm sorry, like, you maybe be in some weird dream level, but let's not go so far to make new ontological existences that aren't there. Because that's when I read about demonology and stuff, I'm like, exactly. That's where we're being so deceived by this stuff is we think we're going on these cosmic journeys, but when you really think about it, it's like you can't leave your body, dude. So it's like,
Mhm.
where are you actually going when you're going into these places?
Yeah. My brother has done so much DMT that the Clockwork Elves told him to stop coming there and get a job. So it's
Yeah.
like there is a point that
Yeah.
uh there's no more they can teach you, right? You have to actually
Right.
just, like
Well, this
in
is where
life.
crafty old Jung sneaks back into this. He has the practice they call active imagination, and that's more or less when you have a dream and maybe that you go into it in waking life. You know, it's like you get in a trance mode. And for me, I'd always smoke up the pot and get my Zen zone and like basically enter into conversations with entities in your head. Like all this stuff that when you read our church, you're just like, this is absolutely demonic.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Either I'm Saint so and so, and I'm talking to the remember because I've talked to Robin Williams once in one of my visions, you know, and it's very profound and it brought me to tears. But so clearly I have access to the dead, or it's like I'm a total delusional guy who's being
Yeah.
deceived.
Maybe you're just on
Yeah,
drugs, right?
yeah. Or maybe you're even now sober doing
Uh-huh.
these things because you've developed such a highly mythic way of looking at stuff and you've opened this door so wide that like the waking reality between eternity and time is like always phasing between the dream and reality, and it's like I
Mm.
was kind of starting to lose it.
They talk about that in that book, Aleister Crowley and the Hidden God, which you can watch that whole show on Rockfin. But so the three phases of consciousness, awake, sleeping, without dreams, and dreaming. And the point of their particular kind of magic is to try and blend these states of beings, like what you're talking about, like you're
Mm.
always in, some sort of in between state.
Well, right, and we could do a whole other show, seriously. Like we could talk about weird stuff where we could zoom in on this because like think about something like Alan Moore, let's say, like a comic book or movies where you then have these dreams of other people interfacing in your private room through technological false icons, you know, these windows through these other dimensions, these portals. And now your imagination, your family background, your stuff is all being projected in it. And you're like creating these, what some people call egregores, or like these bodies of ideas and fantasies that are just growing. And they're all,
Tulpas.
yeah, tulpas. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Totally. And so it's just so weird what we do in the fantasy imagination world.
Yeah.
That's why when we get to Disney, not like eventually we talk about so much, but like this is why where I'm coming from, Disney was so strange. It wasn't like I was just some normie guy, like I love Disney. It's like I was way out in the weeds and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is the freaking castle up here? Like, what? We're at the castle part of the journey. Anyways,
Oh
but
man. Try taking psychedelics and going to Disney and
did
see
it, done
what
it,
thoughts come. It's
did
like,
it, done it. You got one?
yeah.
No, I got you tell everyone. I only really have one good story from that.
Oh, well, that'll have to be a whole other thing.
Okay. Fair enough. Me too. I'll just say it was the second time I ever did them, and God was watching out for us.
Hmm.
There's just no other way to explain it because having done a lot of mushrooms and gone to Disneyland all my life, it's like, well, not the tube, you know what I mean? There's
Hmm.
no way you can play it cool. You can't play it cool there. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it would look like. I don't know how it,
Yeah.
only by the grace of God. So at this point, I start dating. We're
Yeah.
entering the Tinder files, boy. Oh man. So I've lived that life too. I don't want to spend too much time on that because honestly, that's like stuff that it's more where we get to like where this starts getting darker. Just because when you start getting into dating and meeting people, like I was very much the person. It's like, oh yeah, the perfect woman. You guys definitely sleep together on like if not the first night, like the
Hmm.
third time, and just really taken in by that typical college Hollywood, you know, way that people date. Like
Hmm.
it's just normal for me. But I always wanted to find someone spiritual who had
Hmm.
had outer body experiences like me. And so I kind of want to breeze over the dating life. I did that for like maybe like 2 years, never sticking in anything for more than like 6 months. And now this time we're probably in COVID era, like fall of 2020. And then I'm with this person that I really thought it was like maybe that she wasn't the one, but she sparked something in my heart that was like I hadn't felt since the one who got away in high school, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's very much like, again, being a good Jungian, I'm like, oh, I gotta be aware of my feelings. And yet I'm also like, oh no, I'm entering into this perfect phase of my individuation process, meeting my anima and my soul
That's,
projection.
um,
And it's like,
was she
yeah.
into that stuff too? Like,
No, but she wanted
uh,
to be. See, that's the problem is like honestly, like I was never a Casanova, but I wanted to be. Like in all humility, like I was a guy that like wished I could have more of that than I did. And I
uh,
realized like you just do shadiest stuff to try to like get to meet people, all under the auspices of like good intentions. It's like, no, I'm just into dreams and spiritual life, and you're into yoga. You seem like you would let me share all this stuff with you. And it's like no one asked for this. Like who says I want this, and it was never like forcible in a physical way, but almost like forcing my psychological, philosophical, experiential life on the people I would meet and be like, basically, to be in all honesty, like, don't you love me, mom? Or like, dad, don't you appreciate me? It's like
mhm,
really looking for love. Like I was really looking for love. Especially I still never like honestly probably didn't really deal with really getting cheated on until I became a Christian, like I
mhm.
thought I had years ago, but just really alone and isolated and feeling like losing a lot of friends in Humboldt because a lot of people come and go for the college town and all that kind of stuff. And just dating is just like I was just getting bored, and then I met this woman and I thought like, yeah, like I said, it was this thing. And then I found out I should have known better. It was all there, but she was TRAFF'd as a kid.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was the turning point in my life. That's where it was like, who am I? I like couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. And don't get me wrong, we were like dating. It wasn't long, but it wasn't just like a one night thing. It was like and yet I probably, if I was a real Christian gentleman, I never would touch her with a 10 foot. I'd be like, no way.
Hmm.
Not for judgment of her, but just like that's just not. Yeah, you don't deal with stuff like that on a intimate level so soon in a relationship with someone and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
whew, so that was like,
Oh,
just
that's too much to take on, like cheaters and
dude, yeah, it was like my story is more or less like the British guy with the pith hat who goes into the jungle. It's like
uh
I'm just doing research, and he like gets lost for like 8 years, comes back like bearded and just like totally savage. Like that's like what happened to me on some level, except for it's Christ dragging me out of the forest,
yeah,
and I'm just like, oh. So
yeah.
anyway, it was around this time I did my Disney dive because I'm talking to my old friend from college, Renee, and we're chatting. She's dealing with stuff with her boyfriend. Of course, I'm like the in-house psychologist because I know everything, especially about Jung. And she's mentioning something. I'm thinking of Beauty and the Beast. And I'm like, wow, it really reminds me. And I was like, oh, I'm on my Jungian thing. So you just follow your pattern association. And yeah, Beauty and the Beast. I haven't watched that movie since I was like a kid and whatever. And I put it on and I was just like, Jungian gold mine.
Yeah.
and uh and it kind of just again with the Jungian thing, you're always going back into your past. It's like you're given this cup. It's so Gnostic. It's like you're given this broken cup at childhood to drink from the waters of life. Or no, you're given this cup and then it breaks at some point and throw the bottom part in the trash. And it's like your job to go into the cosmic trash of your life and find that bottom cup so you could keep drinking from the well of life. And it sounds good, but it's like it's always involving like going into refuse in your past and all these things that are just like
Hmm.
the imagination, right? Because what are you really doing? You're sitting in your room journaling or eating mushrooms. It's like you're not really going to the past.
They just did a couple shows on this about how you get over things is just by literally trying to forget. Like you don't go deep back diving into old traumas and like unpacking old things. You just kind of try and move forward, be active, dance, get out. And so the psychologists even are figuring out that the rumination part is not really the healthiest way to deal with things.
Yeah, and I'm gonna butcher the quote. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try, guys. So forgive me. My namesake, Paul, he says, "I press on, we endure to the goal, pressing on, hoping for only the victory in Christ Jesus."
Mhm.
And
I mean, I do understand the value of getting to the bottom of why you're reacting the way you are. Uh, Because definitely I had to do that in therapy. Like, why do I do this? And he's like, it's because this happened to you. Oh, okay, that's why. But then you don't like revisit that all the time. You just use that for, knowledge that can help you not let that happen again.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of helpful things like and the more I come around to orthodox like our practice life for this kind of the psychotherapy unseen warfare we do, a lot of it is very close to CBT and like correct your thoughts. Like in many ways the Christian life is
Mm,
change your behavior before you change your thoughts. Your
mhm,
thoughts will follow. You have
mm,
to be embodied. That's why we do prostrations. That's why everything in the church, like icons, so we have these visible things. That's why we're prostrating, lighting incense, crossing ourselves, eating the bread and the wine, the body and the blood. So, anyways, yeah, we did the dating thing, got black holed on that, started falling into the Disney dive of like going further into like now I was at this point where it was like I'm an artist, but I can't write my book. I'm doing all this painting. Maybe we'll do a flash gallery showing of the paintings at the end.
okay.
But I'm doing all this painting. I'm struggling in my writing. And I look at a guy like Walt Disney, and in all honesty, I was just like, Dad, this guy, he did all like he made his art life like explode. Like I want to do that. Like I'm not sure I want like a Paul land, but like I just want to get out. I wish I don't want to work. I don't want to keep working in a factory my whole life. Like
Yeah,
it's just this, in all
understandable.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's like that sort of like without getting to the woe is me, because I'm like over this kind of stuff in life, more or less. It's like the American life kind of sucks, dude. It's like you got to go work at a Walmart, but that's the hard part because you got to be humble too. If that's what you got, that's what you got. And it's like, so I loved, my
Yeah.
dad always told me that no job is beneath me.
Well, there's a difference between being lazy and not wanting to be a cog in a machine. God has given us more capabilities than just being a cashier or, you know.
Well, right, and that's a tough part is knowing that I've been gifted this talent to paint and do art and do music and blah 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 blah. But it's like how do you do it? And so I became very humbled. I know it sounds ironic, but I became humbled, but I became contented with the idea that like my mythological world, my whole life might not exceed 15 miles. Like,
Mhm,
what if this was all I really had was Humboldt County? Like
mhm,
maybe I could just try to be not necessarily a big fish here, but like maybe try to make this place better. Like instead of being on the internet and thinking I can change the whole world, like can I even change my neighbor? So you
mhm,
hear all this gnawing thoughts. Can I change other people? How can
mhm,
I change other things? It's like change yourself, dude. But
mhm,
but that was whole the idea is like grass is greener where you water it, not necessarily on the other side.
mhm,
And yet that sounds good, but there's a very, very realistic sense that like, but you have to do stuff physically. Like, so for instance, I had a lot of people that I know that would leave jobs, they just couldn't handle it. They'd move out of town, they'd do all these things. And I would stay put. And I found that through those adversities, I would grow rather than just always reacting every 6 months to needing a new job or needing a new girlfriend or it's like you're married. It's like you have to go through these periods where you're growing through it's like a tomato plant. Anyways, I don't want to go into an analogy about all that. So I was just really biding my time. I called it psychedelic prison. It was
mhm.
like I had this whole world open to me, and I was like living in this invisible dream Twin Peaks world while going to my 9 to 5 job. And I remember one day I was at work, and it's just like this kind of weird stuff, Jamie. It's like you're then listening to a podcast, and suddenly it hits me the idea of like, wow, I get the idea of like man becoming a god, but what if like the gods, symbolically speaking, became man? What if like eternity entered into time, bro?
Uh-huh.
Like, and that's why I started getting all obsessed with this idea of the incarnation.
Uh-huh.
And this was in 2020, still 2 years before I converted. Go ahead.
Psychedelic shower thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, but it worked. So
Yeah.
psychedelic
Yeah.
shower shot thoughts. So, anyways, more or less, we're kind of getting to this point where in my Jungian journey, I start having dreams of Jesus. I had this one crazy active imagination that went like very southward, and I called upon Jesus to help me. And he came, dude. And it was one of those things that was like at the time, I was like, oh, cool, thanks, Jesus. You're another vision of mine. Great.
Mhm.
Then I look back and like read the real stuff the saints say, like if you just call upon Christ in all sincerity, he'll be there. And I was like, whoa, like I think he actually was like.
Wow.
But
Uh-huh.
anyways, that even if that was just delusional, I'm okay with it. The point is I started incorporating Christianity more into my thing because I admit I couldn't get around it.
Mhm.
We're in a Western world. Like, how can you deny that? How can you act like Christianity is not influential? And if you're really sincere about going on your mystic journeys or being a real historian or studying things, you have to take Christianity into account at some point.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're really just being ignorant and choosing your own beliefs.
Hmm.
So I just started looking into it, and again, it's like God barred me from seeing orthodoxy. It's like I wasn't ready able to see that yet. So I was looking at everything of Christian. To me, it's just like, oh, it's the Eastern bearded version. Okay, cool. The Gnostic, obviously based psychedelic Christians were the first ones. Duh, because I'm like that, and I read enough selective literature where I know they were all like me.
Uh-huh.
So we got to figure out Christianity now, folks. It's like we got to
Yeah.
do our. But guess
And,
what?
and it's
Jordan
funny
Peterson.
too, like Gnosticism is a stop on the road from psychedelics to Christianity. Like you do go through
Yeah, it's
the
like that's the
Gnostic
funny.
forest or something. Like
Oh, dude, I have a painting about that.
if it was a Candyland game, it would be like, like
Here we are into the Gnostic forest. So this just looks
okay.
very green. But right
Hmm.
here you have a figure, See him
One
beckoning
little
for
light. Yeah.
one little light through the Gnostic forest.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, so um okay, let me gather my thoughts here. But the thing I wanted to bring up with my cat earlier, I was never fully on board with Gnosticism.
Hmm.
I was a good Zen guy. I was a good earth hippie. I live in the redwoods. Like, there's no way you can deny me the creation. This gets back to icons, wood and paint. There's
Hmm.
no way that you could tell me that nature ain't like sacred. And so I would never became a full-blown Wiccan. Like I had a girlfriend and she did like the teepee. She had a teepee in her yard and did the sweatshops and the smushing. I remember one time I was like being so sincere. I was so moved in the sweatshop. I spat on the fire because I wanted to like offer my spirit, whatever, my breath. And that was a faux pas. You're like not allowed to do that. And I was just like, what do you mean? We're just like sitting in your backyard. Like, don't give me the rules. Like,
Yeah.
it's strange because it's like I wanted to be in a community, but I also never felt I belonged in anyone,
Hmm.
you know? And that was one of these my thing with Disney was not even like I liked it. I saw it as a weird, strange, like demonic parody of so many things we want. Because like in Disney, you could be united through your love of Pixar or like pirates. Like, and who cares if you don't like Cars? Who cares if you don't like Toy Story? We both like Ratatouille. It's like there's this
Oh,
weird way,
yeah.
yeah, all our different ilks can be under one sort of tribal banner, and we can all new age it together. So, anyways, more or less, we're winding to the end. So at this point, as you guys can kind of gather by my story, I'm like in basically full blown psychedelic mode where it's like I'm not doing them anymore, but it's like I'm going to the grocery store. And it's like, oh, and I'm like in a dream. It's not really like the world starts changing, pulsing colors, but you just start thinking more symbolically. Things
Yeah.
will be a little shinier. You know what I mean? It's like that
Yeah.
flashback stuff is real. It's like I was just getting tired of it. Jamie, I was getting so tired of it. I was just like, I wasn't a praying man. I remember one day I sat down and I was like, whatever you are out there, like take this stuff from me. Like,
Mm.
especially getting in my active imagination. Like I had my last two visions I like ever had. At this point, again, no drugs. It was just like I could induce these states sitting down and like going into like breathing practices and walking into my dreams and opening up my heart and blah 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 blah, really opening myself up for other entities to come in. This is like when I've come on the show in the past and I give all this like black and white demon stuff. It might sound cuckoo, but I was just living this life, not knowing any of this. So now when I read what the church says, I'm like, good Lord, like, no wonder our stuff is so simple. You just say, Lord Jesus, have mercy on me, and you bend down a lot until you get tired and go to
Yeah.
so anyways, yeah, I have this vision. I'm in a pit and I have to like climb out of the pit and there's like all this scary stuff and like basically like make it out alive. And then like, it's I guess I don't even need to bring it up. The point is like that was like I hit my own rock bottom. Because
Hmm.
in the Jungian world, you just need to live things symbolically to live them really. You don't actually have to be Indiana Jones to be Indiana Jones. It's like a very Jungian idea that as long as you're doing it symbolically, it's real. Like
Hmm.
the brain, the body, the soul processes it real. So I knew I'd hit rock bottom, but I'd also had climbed out, and I was about to start a renaissance of my life, and yeah. And at this point, I'm basically like just having the first time in my life like a relationship that's purely carnal that was very unwholesome, you could say, and it was just one of those things where I thought I was going to start writing songs again and blah 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 blah, and then one day I'm coming into my house, and I live in this old Victorian. It's like multiple, so there's like an apartment up top, one off to the side, and I'm in the center kind of the house. And one day I come in and I hear this like this like crazy sound. I'm like, what the hell? And there's like this new bathroom fan that had been installed in the neighbors next door, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just like wigging out. I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I've lived here for 6 years and now there's like this obscene sound, It's like, I don't think they know. And it's like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours. I'm just like losing my mind. And it's just like night after night, my neighbors, they just like, they'd run this bathroom fan for so long. I'd like be losing my mind. I'm like, dude, I think I'm so spiritual. I've done all these things. I've gone to the other side of life, and I can't even handle a bathroom fan.
Oh man, do not
What
try to
is
put me in a room with a ticking clock to try to go to sleep. I will find that ticker and destroy it or hide it or something. Like it starts ticking inside your head.
sister? I feel you.
I can't
Yeah.
even
So
fall asleep at like with a what are those called? Grandfather clocks? Oh hell no.
oh man, especially when they chime at the weirdest hours. I slept with one of those like maybe 6 months ago. I'm like, what is this? I'm counting like 45 minutes. What is it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so
yeah, why are
anyway,
you going off like every quarter hour with a cuckoo and a no.
and
Ticking
then there's
clocks, no me gusta.
variant ones. What is this? Like,
Yeah.
so then basically, I'm like, okay, I need freaking help, dude. Like, this is the end. Like, there's just something wrong with me. Like, I give up, Lord. Like, I just want to like make my art in the world. I just want to like do. I just want to either meet a woman. I just want something other than being psychedelic detective guy. Like, I'm just
Mhm.
done with this. I'm tired of being a suburban shaman. I mean, I hate this,
Yeah.
and
Rastafarians.
no, I was never into the
Okay.
Rastafarian, maybe Pastafarian because I love
Oh,
spaghetti,
pastafarian. Okay.
but that's neither here nor there. Um, so I'm talking to my therapist. I was not going very regularly at this time, but I was like, I gotta chat with you, dude. And he's like, and I was like, I just gotta join a choir again. I was in school. I love being in ensembles, and I haven't done anything in a long time. Like, I just want to join a choir, like a gospel choir, maybe or something. He's like, oh yeah, well, you can go check out this Episcopal church. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. I'm like, at this point, I didn't know, didn't care. Now let's tie into Orthodoxy. In 2017 or 18, I checked out an Orthodox liturgy in my town in Eureka. We have one Orthodox church. And it was cool. It was whatever. I was on my hero phase, mythic journey mode where everything was kosher and every religion was fine. And so I liked it enough till I started talking about Jesus, and I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. You Christians, like, what do you expect, dude?
Oh, I don't know what you expected at church. Well, actually, some churches don't. So,
Well, that's it, Jamie.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So then I went again in 2021 because at this point in my story, I'm at work and I get persecuted by the PC police at the weed factory. Like, talk about craziness. I'm living in like the woke weed industry and I'm getting like silenced because I basically literally said that pansexual means you'll have sex with anything. Does that mean
Mhm.
people have sex with dogs? And this lady got very, very offended. She put her hand in my face, said, "You need to stop talking." And I got sent to the police of HR, and they gave me like this. I was going into my logic, like, dude, I don't know. I was just joking. And this other guy tried to chime in and get my back, and he made a joke, and he got sent into the office too. And she was just like raising us down,
Dang, I
and
will
she
never
literally told me
survive
like,
in the real world anymore.
so
No.
I feel the PC thing too, bro. I feel the wokeism, but you also can't, we don't want to talk about that. You just can't be sided on any of this stuff. It's all
Yeah.
crazy from both sides. But anyway, she gives me the logic that this is current year.
Uh-huh.
Things have changed. I'm just sitting here and this voice in my head, whatever saint it was like, shut up. You're gonna lose your job. Like, stick it out. Just be martyr. Didn't say the word at the time, but like, just be here, let it go. And
Mhm.
so like that, I just started becoming super embittered. Like, so we add this kind of that last year, 2021 to 2022, I started going into like Anakin turn into the dark side mode. So I
Okay.
just can't, I just couldn't believe how stupid this world is. But I realized in this meeting with HR,
Yeah.
I, I had no ground to stand on. What was I going to tell her? Hey, screw you. I've eaten mushrooms and seen the face of death. What do you
Yeah.
know about anything?
Yeah.
Right? So I knew there was something seriously wrong with like not having a religion. even if I didn't believe in it. Like, 'cause I'm like jealous, like, yeah, the Jews, they get to say what they want, the Muslims get to do this, and the Christians,
Oh,
what do
right.
I get to do? I get to hang out with people who play drums, like, and smell like patchouli. Like, I don't like this,
Yeah.
And so, anyways, so I go to this Orthodox service in 2021, and they're singing the Beatitudes. Of course, I feel so resonant with "Blessed are you who are persecuted for righteousness' sake,
All
for
right.
you to God." But I don't think the Lord was ready to speak to me then, because I would have become kind of a political orthobro.
Uh-huh.
I think, honestly, I've never been into that kind of stuff, but I could see myself becoming, this is the right thing, and da 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 da. So I just spent another year in psychedelic prison. That was the year, like 2021 to 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then on June 26th, 2022, which is 3 days before my name day, which is so funny, but it was All Saints of North America Day. I'm like, all right, whatever. I hit the bathroom fan black hole of just like, I'm a loser. I think I'm so spiritual. I'm just a whatever, dude. Like, and instead of I was gonna try to say soy boy, but a psy boy, like psychology boy, who
Oh,
I don't know,
uh-huh.
whatever. Well, a psy guy. I'm just a psy guy.
Yeah, like some kind
And
of young Wojak, Carl Young.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And it was just like, this sucks, dude. And it was like, and I wasn't even into Peterson. Like, I ditched him years ago. It was just like, I was just this boring like guy. And so my therapist was like, yeah, check out the Episcopal Church. So I look at the website. I'm just like, yeah, hard no, And I'm like, well, that Orthodox church exists around the corner. Let's just go check that place out. Whatever. They had an a cappella choir.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I could join the choir. I don't have to be a Christian, but like, maybe they need a baritone. So I go,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I go into
Like
the
you're like,
church.
you seem like cool people. Like, just hang out here.
Yeah, and so I walk in, and I'm in the narthex, and I look in, and there's all these like grown men with beards, like kissing pictures and bending over, and women dressing all modestly. Which we should pause there for a minute, because that was just like, what? Like, everybody's like, huh?
Everything's
There's like,
covered up. Yeah.
yeah, and there's like children running around screaming, and like the priest is speaking in like 3 or 4 different languages, and he's like going in and out this door, like wearing a dress, and I'm just like, I don't really know what this is. Like, I think I know Christianity, but like, honest to God, like, I couldn't tell you why do I have such a chip on my shoulder against this stuff?
Right.
Like, I know what I have a chip against. It's the mega churches. It's like, I'm a good Jungian. I know people are just corrupted by the dark side of the psyche, and it's my goal. It's our goal to become whole. But I give people the benefit of the doubt. But in all honesty, like, and I'm on my good Jungian journey. It's like, why don't I don't know anything about Christianity. It's kind of weird. And so I'm just sitting there in the liturgy and just asking myself all these questions, like of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked the question of all questions. Like, I've kind of cataloging all my experiences and all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and just everything I've done. I'm just like, how, it's just like, man, how do I not know that thing from which all things come from, whatever. How do I not know it can't resurrect from the dead?
Mm-hmm.
Leaves come back on the same tree and my same philodendron right here, and my cells regenerate all the time. And every time I go to bed and wake up in the morning, it's kind of like a mini death. And every time the sun goes down and rises, it's like, it's not that weird to me. I'm a good fractal guy. Like, I could get resurrect. I could get behind a resurrection. But, why not? And then it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, I'm having a vision. I'm like, no. I'm like, because I'm again still in like peak psychedelic prison mode, and it's just
Yeah.
like, oh Lord. I'm like, I'm like, now I'm gonna be a Jesus guy. I'm like, oh damn it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just always going from one thing to the next. And I'm like, now I'm having a vision in a church. Like, good Lord, I'm just like, but I'm just like, whatever, let's just let it happen, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm like starting to have this like
That's the
experience.
end of the road. I'm not saying you were addicted to it, but like
No, I
that's
was
the
an addict.
addict's end is like Jesus freak now.
Yeah, yeah, no, it really is. And that's the thing is like, yeah, anyways, I don't want to tangent on that. So I'm having this experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like looking up, and it's like really like, oh God, this is like as powerful, like this something's happening right now. And I just glance up at the icon and the roof of the Pantocrator, sorry, whatever, the teacher. Oh, man, and I hear this voice in my head. It's like the quietest, most humble, meek, and yet voice of thunder and lightning and all like cosmic creation. I just hear the voice of God and just says, follow me.
Mm.
And I knew it was Jesus Christ. And like in this moment, I like realized that Christ was like the icon of the invisible world that I've been in this. I knew it was a download. Like I knew almost like about using a bad metaphor, like how we think we evolved from monkey slime mold to a human. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I knew the invisible world somehow evolved to Christ. Somehow Christ was the Omega. He was what it's all about. He's been there from the beginning. And like in a detective movie, like this whole life I've been living the last 8 years, I saw all of my life like flash before me and all these pieces being filled in. Like it was Christ all along. You know that meme where he's like over people's shoulders and in every situation is like I realized how God was present with me in every these crazy darkest moments of my life and how not only that he was the answer to everything I was looking for, the face of Christ, and how I was like, I knew in my own mystical way the idea of the Father, the idea of this source from which all things come, the invisible, unspeakable, incomprehensible aspect of the love of God that we know because in my super dark trip I had years ago, I knew that like love was the answer because it was just kind of one of these things like I have no idea what the universe is made out of, but for human beings, we gotta love each other. And I just knew that there's this thing called love that was invisible, that was like this cosmic glue. And I knew somehow there's this thing called the Holy Spirit that was like, this thing that's like, how does like Disneyland even work? Like, how do human beings evolve to make a shopping mall? How do people even come up with ideas like this idea that there's some energy, some active presence in life? Like, and I can understand the idea of the logos too, like the Tao, this
Mm-hmm.
thing, but never it was Jesus. And in
Right.
this moment, like when Christ spoke to me, he said, "Follow me." I just like metaphorically fell to my knees. I just started weeping, like I just wept and wept and wept, and it was like as if I had that mushroom journey in 2017 and like threw me down the hole. It was like Christ met me like either right at the bottom of the hole or right at the top. Or if I had just like made the step over the chasm, I would have been a healthy boy. I'd had my spirit journey and like gotten healed. But like went down this long journey. It's like Christ met me right where I was at that psychedelic encounter, and it was like seriously as profound as that outer body one, but it's like an incoming body. It's like I was coming into my body finally after all these years. And I just knew in that moment, like, this is the end of the road. Like I will never have another religion after this. This is it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
God, I love you. I'm like been a terrible person my whole life. I've been so willfully proud and I'll do anything for you, even if it's working in a soup kitchen the rest of my life. Like honestly, I had no idea monasteries existed at this point, but I was like in that like archetypal movie mode where I was ready to just get in my car and drive to a monastery and be baptized Orthodox and just disappear and just like this is it. I finally found it. And I just walk out of that church stupefied. I'm just like, what the hell happened to me? And I just like start reading the Orthodox books. I'm like, I believe this. I believe this. I already believe this.
Yeah.
I already, I already believe. That is really interesting. Oh, that makes so much sense. That's what. Oh, wow. Oh my God, this is demons. I'm like, holy shit. Wait, all this unseen warfare. Ooh, I'm like, pretty sure either I'm a saint or I'm like just like 99.9% of people on planet Earth afflicted by this stuff. And
Right.
I've taken so far that I have been their mocking fool. They've just made a fool of me, thinking that I'm some great psychonautic spiritual investigator and I'm going to write a great book. And, no Jungians have ever written a book on Walt Disney. So it's like, let's freaking go, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah. It's like I'm willing to be some king of the tiniest little hill of ants that ever existed. And in that moment, I just realized I'm nothing. And it's like the Lord, I knew I was nothing on that cosmic mushroom trip, but this was like I'm something. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Lord saw me. It was like I was healed in an instant. Not really, but it's like how you build a house. You lay down that first piece of stone. It's beginning. The track is laid. It's not complete, but you see it. In that moment, I was healed,
Well,
and I got
you
baptized.
were
Sorry.
blind and now you can see. I mean,
Yeah.
your
Well,
vision
this
may not be 20/20 yet, but like at least now you can see things.
yeah, amen, amen. It's just like they say in scripture at some point, like when gosh, I forget where, but when he was starting to open his eyes again, people started looking like trees. It's because you kind of have this vagueness when you start to see again out of nowhere. But and it's funny, I brought the part about being healed with sound too, because in the end, it was like the inner sound of God, just all the sounds of the liturgy. Like God spoke to me through these channels that I had been really opening up. And so, like, honestly, the story kind of ends there. It's like I was baptized very quickly because just personal relationship with my priest, who was like, okay, cool, I got to learn these things and start fasting and da da da, but we'll do it 6 months from now.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's been a very rough start becoming Orthodox. It really has. Like, I, I'm one of those guys that like I shouldn't even be on here talking, and I've shared it to you privately. But it's kind of like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I've been Orthodox 6 months, and I'm already going on the internet. Like, what's wrong with me? Like,
Right.
but so anyways, I've just been like, as you guys can tell at this point, I'm willing to go all in for God. It was like I didn't have anything going on in my life except for just living my psychedelic life that's now over. See, that's a crazy thing is in this moment, I no longer wanted to be a writer. All my ambition to do everything just went away. A little bit still of the Disney stuff because I just love it. I don't know, it's too, maybe I'm not there yet, but it's
Well,
whatever. But
it seems like all the parts of your experience and your personality are converging for you to pursue this new
yeah, so
avenue
we'll
perfectly.
finish the story. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, so this is the end of the story, more or less. And this is now about like September, October. I'm talking to my priest, and he just gives the idea. He's like, why not go to seminary? Why not check it out?
Mhm.
You don't have to go be a priest. You can just see if you like it. And excuse me. And so it was a few months, and then in March, I decided to go to St. Tikhon's and just check it out. Like, okay, seminary, like, but kind of scared because I'm still, a hedonist at heart, even though I'm trying to change. Like, I'm not there yet. The idea of becoming like single guy priest, like, I either got to get married or I got to become a monk. I don't really want to do that yet. I like pork too much. Like, whatever. We'll just go check it out, right?
Mhm.
I go to St. Tikhon's in March with the intention of pursuing the seminary. Dude, I knew by like day one in class, like first hour, I was like, no, this is
No, no.
not. The Lord, glory to God. But yeah, the first night I got there, I was like, wow, this feels is a beautiful place, but I felt really like naked and afraid in a world I don't never made.
Mhm.
And so it was interesting. On the Sunday that I was there, I get in, it's time for liturgy, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll give confession to be formal. I haven't sinned very much this last week, but whatever. I'm here. It'd be nice to give confession at St. Tikhon's. And doing confession, like there's only so much I could talk about within like feeling like my conscience, like, I don't want to go there.
Mhm.
But other people could corroborate this if they want, if they need to. But long story short, I had confession with like a holy elder, like a guy
Mhm.
that's literally clairvoyant. And he was like telling me things about myself. And I was literally just bawling. Again, it was like just like in the icon thing, it was just like I never felt so seen. I was like, this elder, I'll keep his name, if he's really, is this a saint? Like, is this what saints are like? Is this what Jesus was like? Like, if
Yeah.
this guy is even like 2% of what it was like to be with Jesus, like I can't believe imagine what it would have been like to be around him. Like, whew. So anyways, I have this beautiful confession, and I'm like, Father, I don't know whether I should stay in the world and try to help or come to St. Tikhon's. And he's so vague, but I don't know. But he was just like, Paul, you would do much better coming here for 3 years than you would being in the world. That's all he said. He didn't
Mhm.
say about what or anything. And so this was still the next day I went to class and I started doing a week of auditing the classes.
Mhm.
And like I said, I knew right away it wasn't for me. So I'm just like, wow, well, I have this like father so and so thinks I should come here, but I'm not gonna take his. I've only met him one confession. I'm not gonna be like, you're my new spiritual father, sure.
Mhm.
But it's like that's interesting. And I met Father Sergius, the abbot, on Sunday. I'm like, hey, I'm Paul. I'm here from California. I think we'd have some time to chat while I'm here. He's like, yeah, sure. We'll find time at some point in the week. So on Tuesday, I'm in the bookstore, just buying, shopping around. Father Sergius comes in. He's like, oh, hey, Paul, meet me here tomorrow at 11 and we'll chat. And I think it was like March 8th. And so I meet him there and I just give him the life story. I don't go into all the details, like as detailed as I got here, but I told him, about the psychedelics, the Jungian stuff, just like, 'cause that's where I'm at. It's like, dude, I'm Orthodox. The people priests have seen this stuff before. I don't need to hide this kind of stuff. Like, I
Mhm.
want to get healed. I'm here to get healed. So what do I got to do? Anyways, I'm talking to him and he's just like, yeah, let me show you the icon studio. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I heard they're like building an icon studio there, and they had these iconographers from Belarus, and they're like world renowned. And it's so funny because the day before Father Sergius took me over there, I get their email contact. So I email her and I say, hey, Katerina, I'm visiting. I'm a pilgrim. Can I check out the studio one day? I'm an artist, whatever. She's like, sure. And her area code is the same area code from here. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
what? Like what? They ended up painting a cathedral down in Santa Rosa. It's a large territory of area code, but hours away, but still it's very
Oh wow.
surreal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, one of these strange providential synchronicities of God, right?
Mhm.
And so I go into the studio is not yet ready. I think it finally is now, but they were working just kind of out of the trapeza room. And they all kind of stop what they're doing because in comes the abbot, right? And this guy. And so I think honestly, I think it was like one of these who really helped me because I walk in and it's kind of like, who are you? It's like, I'm Paul, and Father Sergius is like, this is Paul. He has aptitude. I think he'd be a good fit for the program.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, just speechless.
Uh-huh.
This, I mean, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. Like painting, art, all this icon stuff. We'll get deep in now about the theology and all that cool stuff, and serving God. It's just like, yeah, I'm just speechless. It's just unbelievable. So Katerina, their names are Katerina and Anton Daineko. I can't pronounce it well. Forgive me. We'll give all their contact. But so I had this painting. This is the one that I showed Father Sergius, and this isn't an icon, but I wanted to bring it on because it's
Oh, nice.
inspired. Yeah, it's inspired by icons. But you can
Uh-huh.
see, in all honesty, he kind of has a badger face. It's hard to paint the light with flat matte colors. And so there's all these things I obviously don't know how to do, and I don't want to try to. And part of why I got into the church was like, I don't want to try to be a budget iconographer.
Uh-huh.
It's something I respect about the church is our traditions. And so I don't want to be that guy that's just like, no, I could do it. I could paint, so I'm going to be an iconographer. And I
Hmm.
really gave up any ideas of being an iconographer. I never think you could be one. It's like, what am I going to go to Greece and find like Photiokius or something and like learn how
Yeah.
to. It's like,
It's like a
they're
secret society or something.
really, they're like these secret fairies in the woods. You got to like tap on the toadstool to go find something.
Right.
And so, this ended up being, she's like, well, what do you got? And I showed her that, and she just like rolls her eyes. She's like, nah, like I see that stuff like all the time. What do you have? Like, show me your stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so I only have I guess maybe we'll do it now. We'll just fly through them because
Okay.
she like kind of just scrolling through my phone and just
Uh-huh.
like looking at. So we did that one. We did that one. I'll just make a mess here. So here's a crazy one. All-seeing eye. We
Oh,
got some.
cool.
And if you
Uh-huh.
want me to stop, I'll stop. Otherwise, I'll just breeze through them.
Well, so these are for sale, correct?
If people want, sure. Yeah, we'd have to work it out because I don't really have an online store for this kind of
Uh,
stuff.
yeah.
Eventually, I'll definitely be taking commissions for icons, and if there's old paintings people want, sure. But I'm at the point where I really am like a sell everything you have and follow me kind of place right now. So if
Okay.
people are dying and chomping at the bit, we can talk. But
Okay. Oh, cool. I
that
like
one's
it.
from a dream
Yeah.
line with wings. It's also like Mark. So this is one of these things that 2017, this painting. So the Lord was working in very strange ways my whole life. This one's a little PG-13 here.
Mm.
Ooh.
Very Picasso.
Yeah, but see, you have to see if you want to be like kind of dissociative about it. Look how tiny the intellectual, look how like grossly over like
Uh-huh.
the body is,
It's like if Klimt and Picasso together, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of corny graphic. Weird Buddha collage face with
Okay.
some antlers, kind of hippie animal stuff. We got like Led Zeppelin Passion guy
Oh,
coming out.
nice.
Yeah, coming out the ghouls behind him and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. Same kind of motif, but we got like shaman guy saving the little baby or maybe stealing him. I don't know. We're still in 2019 with some of these, so
Uh-huh.
these are pretty old. This one got holes in it, so it's worthless. But we got like Mystic Unicorn. He's like the cave dweller coming to get the unicorn horn or
Oh,
something.
uh-huh. Okay.
Maybe a little Jesus fish in the
Yeah.
rocks. Much. This is 2020.
That's
We
neat.
got, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. I like this one. Old guy finding the
It's
babe.
very bioluminescent or something.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool actually. This is like the mime. And if you can see, he's got the 2001 obelisk. And you can't really
Uh-huh.
see it in the light, but there's like a face in black on black there. It's like a
Oh, uh-huh.
face.
Like
And
Black
it's kind
Mirror.
of, yeah, it's kind of like he's got the world in his hands. He's like casting the spell using his mirror, and it's like converted him. He's like this mime,
Uh-huh.
you know. But it's cool when I do these paintings. I never intended them. The outcome always comes last. I would just paint stuff and kind of see what comes out, like a Rorschach test.
Mm.
Here's one. It's kind of hard to see in detail, but this is like I started getting this idea of the face. So we have this happy face guy, like you saw in the mushroom one,
Yeah.
and this was at a point where I started realizing in my art the human face, like the face is very important for art. You can't just be abstract. Like I remember
Mm.
at one point praying when I was not even a praying guy, but I remember like, oh, holy Uranus, holy Saturn. It's like, what do you do? Pray to a star? It's like, it's so stupid. I remember
Right.
sitting there one day and I was like, wait, meditation's kind of fake and gray. Like, how do you even? So here's like another collage thing. We could zoom in on this or not, but I'm just giving the rundown. But she's just looking at a lot of different styles. Here we get the
Mm.
happy face guy again.
Uh-huh.
He's
It's
kind of like this
very Native
more.
American too, like I just saw some paintings in the Southwest of the Kachinas,
Hmm,
and they looked a lot like that.
this is kind of again the
Face.
face. He's like emerging through here, and
Yeah.
he's kind of a Gnostic cowboy guy about to enter Wonderland or something. Who knows? I love it. I gotta give David Lynch credit. He's always like, "What do you think my art means?" Yeah, I don't know. It's like here we have this kind of like Emerald Triangle alchemist
Oh, I
guy.
like that one.
Yeah, he's like Hermes von Humboldt,
I like
and so
that
he's got
little
like
creature on the shoulder.
he's got a little creature, and you got like the transfiguring of souls thing here, and he's like baptizing.
Mm-hmm.
See, and again, this was 2 years before converting, so it's strange the way this is like when we talk about stuff on our show, all these ways we talk about antichrist stuff. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's like it could be pre-incarnational if you look at it through, wow, this was leading me to the idea of baptism and of the union and how, all these kind of things you could see as foreshadows to Christianity. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're just running with all your cool symbolism toolkit, good luck, dude. It's like you're asking to just become more dissociative.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of summarize that in a way that somebody may not have an issue with, but same deal, starting to build the man. And so this is like build these blocks here, and so you have this kind of haloed archetypal existence. And again, this is when I hit the icon of Christ. I realized, oh, I've been groping in the dark for the iconic face.
Yeah.
All these. That's why everything for me in Orthodoxy was a very lateral move, except for the being humble part. That part's really tough. So, but then in the end, this was the one that I think got me the job.
Who's that?
Yeah, it's just like the cool green giant
Oh,
cowboy
okay.
guy. No, it's just when she saw this, she spoke to Anton, her husband, and they kind of like, and she was just like, you have a good sense of color and composition, and that's not very common. And she basically just gave me an opportunity right there to start. And like they said,
Wow.
when could you start? And it's like 4 years when I could save enough money. Like there's no way I could do this. And yet this is where I'm honestly like so grateful to you letting me come on and take all this time to talk and share with people and try to ask for help, because it's like this came so out of the blue and an opportunity that is only going to be once in a lifetime, because as it stands, like I've lost my job at work. We've been bought out by a bigger weed company. And so that's like ended. Our priest and his whole family had to move. Nothing wrong, nothing bad, but they had their daughter has cancer, family stuff that it was all blessed by the bishop. But the point is like my life here has been falling apart.
Mm.
And then this happened. It's like in that movie where like running across the stones and like jump the cliff. It's like, can I make it in time? So
Yeah.
it's like I'm making it. I have enough tuition ready. I got enough already saved and donated for a year of tuition. And I got my first semester of room and board covered, and I have all that stuff on my webpage. But I'm just kind of asking for help because Katerina, my teacher to be, I was telling her, I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't have anything saved. Like, it's like, you're going to forget me in a couple of years. And it's like, what am I? Well, it's nice knowing you. It's like, oh man, I just got to do whatever I can. And she's like, look, I want to do a Russian, Belarusian accent. I want to do that.
Okay.
Look, I have a cat. My cat, he comes up on my lap and he's like, meow, 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 feed me, feed me, feed me. I'm like, ugh. go away and I go and feed the cat, and then he goes away and he's happy and I'm happy. You have to be a cat. And I'm like,
Mm,
seriously? I have to go beg people for money? She's just like looking at me, just like,
yeah.
yeah, like it's not that weird to ask for patronage, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess with me, my pride, or just whatever you want to say, I'm like, I don't know, man, but I've been doing it. So I made this web page. I'm looking for donations, what anybody can give. And honestly, prayers are the best. I know it's like money would be super helpful, but just keep me in your prayers and this stuff can all work it out in some way.
Well,
And
I think it's such a noble thing too to ask for support because it is a work of the church. I mean, when you graduate, you're going to be producing these. They're not just works of art, they're transcendent of that, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, they're objects we use for worship and prayer.
is the theology of the icon classes part of this?
No, so what I'm doing is more or less an apprenticeship program. And where what did you look something up or something or
No, I was just well, I actually watched this 7-part documentary that's really
oh
good
right.
on YouTube. It's called The Icon. It's about 3.5 hours and it's from the Ostrog Monastery, Serbian Orthodox Church. But yeah, it's a real comprehensive overview of just, you know,
Yeah, I've
why
actually
this
seen.
is so integral to our church.
Yeah, and so to your question, I'm actually going more to be apprenticing hands-on. Like they say
Oh,
within the
cool.
first year, I'll probably be able to start painting and commissioning my own icons.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things that I'm not sure we'll be doing much academic classes, which I'm very happy for. I think it's really an apprenticeship, and partly why so I knew I had to go is because like I really believe in Anton and Katerina. Like when you guys see their work, it is incredible, and it's like they gave up their whole life to come over here to America, like kind of you're saying, to give life to the church
Hmm.
and to devote their time, their lives. And you think Father Sergius is here, has devoted his life to the monastery. I was realizing all these other people's lives intersecting with mine. It's like, this isn't just me having a new great idea, like, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to do this now. It's like, I really feel like God has caught me in the net and I'm the fish, you know, and I've been caught into this. But when I was speaking with them, like, they really want to train American iconographers. Like, I'm not trying to say, like, we got to make American iconography, but they
Yeah,
want there is no American tradition of iconography.
right.
You know, we're so new here that we don't really have that. And I would be one of those people that in many ways, like, I'm okay with just being a brick building the church up. Because so much of from my psychedelic stuff, in all honesty, it was like, dude, you're just dust and you could die tonight. Be okay with that. It's
Hmm.
like, I'm okay with not being a great artist, being a great Walt Disney. Like, I just want to bring people to God, you know, and it's
Hmm.
great for people to say, oh, your work's so amazing. It's so amazing. But what if somebody looked at an icon I painted one day and they had that experience that I had in the church?
Hmm.
That has nothing to do with me. Like, if they see the face of Christ, they'll see the face of Christ. If they see the mother of God, they'll see the mother of God. Like, that's why iconographers don't sign their paintings. It's not
Hmm.
about that.
Hmm.
And so, there's a sense that I really, really want to, you know, it's like people want kids to be raised good. Like, I want to do good. And it's like, so being in the church, this is the best way to do it. It's like I still get to be like, I don't yet have to take vows for monasticism. It's an option. Like, I could try being a novice when I'm there, but I
Hmm.
could just maybe be in the world still and maybe one day be like a traveling iconographer, paint churches. But like, you know, as orthodoxy is growing in America, I know people love icons, and it's like we can only have so many photo reproductions in our churches.
Hmm.
And so it's like I'm one of those guys like I'd work for cheap. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, of course, but like the idea is like I'm willing, like my namesake Paul, to vagabond my life through this world with Christ and be able to do now that I'm gaining tools to do so. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to go around the world and convert people. It's like maybe now I'll start painting and hopefully that will start growing my small little way to help bring people into the church and to
Cool.
help people in worship. So
Hmm.
I'm done, dude. You take over, Jamie. Thank you, everybody.
Well,
For,
your
yeah.
story is really fascinating, and I think all of these elements are converging for to give you the perfect job with purpose, right? So, are you going to be available to come on the show
Yeah, we'll
You're
we'll
doing?
we'll work that out. I think the
Okay.
first couple months I'll probably get used to the
Uh-huh.
first month at least, settle down. But yeah, I don't want to
Well,
disappear too much. We'll see though, honestly, who knows, man? I could have some another mystical experience, and then I'll write you a letter and you could read it to the audience, like, oh, Paul's gonna, he's going somewhere. So
well, let's do this. Let's check up on you maybe in about 2 or 3 months.
yeah, I like it.
And we will do a whole show on the theology of the icon because this was really deep stuff and we didn't really even touch on that because your story was so compelling.
Uh I
But
apologize to anybody in the audience that's already gets ingratiated with me because I just ran on this one. So,
no, they love you. Come
Take it
on.
with Jamie.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a chat favorite for sure. So let's do some homework a little bit more on that and we will collaborate again after you have like kind of got settled where you're going to be and you can tell us how it is and
Yeah,
doing and we'll have a whole, catching up and theology of icon episode.
sure. Sounds great. Yeah, sounds good. And then we'll do I made one little doodle for the show today, so we won't leave people without any theology here.
Uh-huh.
Here we got icon and
Yeah,
idol. So
right.
here you have God, the
Uh-huh.
uncreated, speaking through creation, the tree,
Uh-huh.
but the monk is very happy to have, but he has an icon here
Uh-huh.
to connect him in the portal to the uncreated by seeing an image of the uncreated one. He's now, he's doing his cross. See?
Yes.
And then on this side, we have the monk forgetting that he doesn't have his icon on the tree, so he's hugging it.
Right. He's a tree hugger,
He's a tree hugger because
nature
he's
worshiper
creation.
instead of God worshiper. That's
Yes,
perfect.
he's focusing on creation only. I hope so. I don't know. It just kind of came to me the other night, so maybe it's a good example. But
I'm gonna make that the screenshot for the show. Perfect. Okay.
uh,
Well,
great.
anything else? I'm gonna put your link for your
Yeah, it'll
donation
be
page.
yeah. So
Um,
super origin reveal. Everyone will know my birth name because you're gonna go to ko-fi.com/Jason Paul iconography. And
okay.
ko-fi.com, Jason Paul iconography. And honestly, guys, anything helps. I am looking for basically if I could sink a small amount of monthly donors, I'll be set. But I am not above working if I have to too. If it turns out that I only get a couple bucks and that's that, I'll figure it out. But I just thought, why not try to throw it out there? And honestly, like Jamie, you were the first person I called when I got this news. I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what to do, but I have one friend that, like, I just thought maybe you could post like a little link on like, the community boards kind of
Uh-huh.
deal. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, check out Paul's thing. And I was like, maybe Jamie could throw me a bone. And then when you're like, let's do a whole show. And yeah, so I'm just so grateful for you and all of this. So thank you. Thank
Well,
you,
great
Jamie.
for all of your Jungian psychology Disney talks, and we'll have you back real soon. So stay tuned for that, and God bless everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.